Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday from Google. Happy birthday to you.
Hello Internet and welcome to the Sounds of Stadia podcast, brought to you not by Google Home but by her lovely singing voice. This is episode 52, our 1 year kind of anniversary. Time works in a weird way when you do weekly podcasts apparently, but thank you for stopping by and joining myself, Chris, one of your hosts, my lovely co-host in the cubes, to my left, your right, my left, the techie teacher himself, suffering from man flu, possibly something else, but we won't delve too much into that. Mr. Tom, how are you doing?
That's how you start a podcast, isn't it, Chris? That's how you start one.
It's one way. It's one way of doing one.
Yeah.
And right below him, the man of many pixels in his purple, colourful cube as well, Richie, joining us once again.
I don't think it's looking that purple at the moment because, as you can see, it's incredibly bright outside for some reason.
I swear Chris said bright below you and not right below you, so I like that. If I did hear that correctly, I like that.
Who knows? Who knows?
Hey, man's come prepared.
Come prepared. So for those, audio listeners, for those of you who are unaware, it is our 1 year anniversary. It is episode 52 of the Sounds of Stadia podcast. And in case you're here thinking, why am I here? Just thought we'd clue you in a little bit on the Sounds of Stadia podcast and what it is. It is a weekly podcast. Us three lovely gentlemen bring you once a week, condensing all the gaming and weekly news down into around an hour or so of chit chat and our opinions, thoughts, and ideas of the world in gaming and the industry as a whole. We've got a busy week for you all this week. We're going to delve into platform competition. The cards are on the table, gentlemen. We know the prices, we know the specs, we know the release dates, more importantly. We know what the competition looks like for the next, the future, I suppose, of gaming. But before we jump into all that, we've got a kind of another big announcement. We alluded to it in last week's show. The Sounds of Stadia Celebration 2020, which is our glorified celebration of all things Sounds of Stadia, is coming to you live next week. That is Saturday the 26th of September, 2020. Just thought I'd get that in there. And basically, we have an entire day of hot stuff to bring you. A combination of gaming, streams, giveaways, platforming, everything like that. I don't know why I said platforming.
I mean, we can do a bit of platforming if you want.
Yeah. We'll be on some form of platform. But essentially, we've condensed our schedule down. It will be probably below me, actually, if we've finalised it in time. But to give you a brief rundown, the day is kicking off with my Monster Boy Part 13 playthrough. As those of you who watched along, I may have escaped the volcanic caves last week by facing a giant foe. But this week, I'm joined by one special guest, actually. The only person I know who's completed Monster Boy so far. Our techie teacher stopped by to record an episode with me and point me in the right direction and point out some of my mishaps and flaws. That direction. But essentially, drop by for a special guest appearance with Tom in this week's or next week's episode of Monster Boy. And that basically kicks us off our day of celebrations, followed by the podcast, episode 53, will be live. So that's kicking off live 11 a.m. UK time on Saturday, where the three of us are going to bring you the weekly news, but live. So more importantly, we want your interaction. So if you're one of those hundreds of people who watches along every week and thinks, I won't comment, I won't chat, I might give them a like here or there, let's get involved, everybody. You've been with us for a year now. Some people out there have been listening to us for 1 year. Just think of what else you could have accomplished in that year if you hadn't been on lockdown.
52 hours of your life.
52 or more hours.
We always run over.
At least we always do run over. But yeah, we're going to bring you alive. So we want you in the chat, in the comments, so we can keep that ticking over and bring you all the lovely Stadia news. Followed by some Strange Brigade Let's Play. We're going to jump in and battle out some scorpions and stuff in 1930s ancient Egypt. We're then going to hop over to our good friend Chase's podcast with Stadia Talk, just to break up our day a little bit, and also we don't go insane. And we're going to jump over and chat some Stadia with him for his breakfast morning show. Then we're going to bring it back to you all with some Bomberman action. We know everyone in the community has been loving and raving over Bomberman. Special shout out to Luke, who's the only person I know who's finished number 1 several times now. He's slightly addicted, so shout out to you, Luke. And we're then bringing you, myself and Richie are going to bring you a very special sneak preview of our next Let's Play series that's going to follow Monster Boy. So it's recorded, it's in the bag. Is it spooky?
Yeah.
Who knows?
I'm going to be editing it immediately after this podcast, so we'll find out.
And it's going to go up, and then we're going to drop 2 episodes at once, so you are in the loop with it as well. So keep tuned in for that. Then we wanted to do something community-based, so we're going to be doing a Ask Us Anything, Ask Me Anything open mic session. That's going to run for about 2 hours with some gaming to follow off. And then finally, we're going to go into the evening part of the day with some drinks, some beers, some murdering people in cold blood, and play some Hitman, bring you some Hotline Miami, and then we're going to wrap up the day with our lovely US audience as you all hit your Saturday afternoons with some Avengers as well. We're going to assemble Earth's mightiest heroes to wrap up the day of gaming. But it's going to be a fun one. It's going to be super exciting. We would love it if you could join us at some point throughout the day. We don't expect you to mark off the entire day in your calendar. But hey, if you got nothing better to do, if you're in lockdown, you can't go anywhere, right? Get some drinks, get some food, and enjoy it with us. Jump in and play with us, more importantly, because most of the games we've selected have spare slots for you to join in and have fun. But gentlemen, that is a rundown of the Sounds of Stadia celebration 2020. It's gonna be a big one.
Cracker of a day.
It's going to be a busy day for us.
Isn't it just? But anyway, thank you everybody who's hung around through all of that rigmarole and is still here and hasn't just bounced out and thought, they're just talking about themselves for 10 minutes now. We will get into the actual show. But I suppose we should kick off the next segment, Tom, with another segued announcement that on the cusp of our year 2, Sounds of Stadia 2.0, whatever you'd like to refer to it as, we are going to jump into what is usually
the super sexy special Stadia Stories segment, aka the news. However, the news is now going to be brought to you by StadiaSource.com, the #1 source for Stadia news and reviews. So our lovely friends over at Stadia Source, we're now announcing an official partnership with them to bring you all of the latest Stadia news. So let's get straight into it.
Straight in. So I just want to say as well, massive thank you to Dan and the team and Avery and such for reaching out, because we do often and always, pretty much for all 52 episodes, have relied on them very much so. And if you are a big Stadia fan, I think it's worth mentioning that you should go give them a follow and a like as well, because they do the utmost, deepest journalism for bringing the most niche Stadia stories. Stadia don't give us much to really feed off when it comes other than like a weekly blog, but for that nitty gritty detailed news, if you're an avid gamer and a fan of Stadia, you should be following them because they do amazing work over there. So we are proud to be working in partnership with them.
100%.
And it kicks off, Stadia 2.0. So the news is brought to you by them.
Sounds of Stadia 2.0. Stadia 2.0, very different thing.
Oh yes, let's not get...
That's not an announcement, guys.
Crosswires.
You heard it here first. But we should actually probably start, funny enough, with a story that doesn't come from Stadia Source. Sorry, guys. What a way to kickstart things. But
Here's a new partnership, but we're not going to talk about that.
I mean, when they report on it, we can. But to kick things off, we had some massive news in the gaming industry this week. It made a lot of people happy, then a lot of people sad, and we'll get into all of that. But we will be addressing the PlayStation 5 price, the pre-order fiasco, I suppose is probably the nicest way of saying it.
Yeah,
I've heard shit show flung around.
Yeah, shitstorm. Yeah.
Buster Cluck, sponsored by Borderlands, all that kind of stuff. But essentially, we now know next gen is on the table. We know PlayStation 5, we know Xbox Series S and X. PC's kind of doing its thing, iterating. What was the graphics card that came up this week? The big.
The GTX 3080, so the next installment of the NVIDIA.
It's just the 30
GTX
series from NVIDIA's come out,
and it's
a massive jump from the 20 series.
And it's also a pricey one, if I'm not mistaken, as well, right?
Yeah, it always is with new graphics cards, though.
Yeah.
Which
always.
There's different tiers of it, though. So.
But thankfully, you don't need any of that if you're a Stadia player, because you just need some shitty old Chromebook and you can play to your heart's content.
I want one.
What, a Chromebook?
No, an RTX 3080.
I mean, don't we all? But speaking of things that we want, as mentioned, the PlayStation 5, the Xbox, and there are rumours about a Switch Pro coming out. Yeah, possibly, but we've not heard anything concrete on that. It's all just hearsay at the moment. But what
it's basically just a Nintendo 64.
Oh,
if we're going by their Super Mario ways of dealing with things.
Yeah, that could be that. Yeah, talk about next gen. Here's a game from the 1990s that hasn't had any tweaks or jumps in
Switch
graphics
HD or something.
something like that. But yes, so I thought we best discuss it because at the end of the day, Stadia, it is Stadia's competition, and Stadia hopefully will one day be pitted up against these two, and maybe next gen, when we're talking about PlayStation 6 and Xbox WXYZ, we may actually get to a point where Stadia's competing with these guys, because you're talking 7, 8 additional, maybe 10 years by the time we see the next gen. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but when we're up to episode 467 of the Sounds of Stadia podcast, we will be reporting on all of this stuff.
It's going to be weird, this one, because I've been predicting for a while that Xbox, this is might be the last generation where they have a physical console, because they seem to be going all in on cloud gaming. They keep talking about how they see Google and Amazon as their chief competitors in this generation. They're talking about the end of console generations. Sony like, no, we like generations, but so it's going to be. I think it's going to be an interesting market over the next probably about 10 years. See what happens.
We have almost reached a point where they're all very much playing different games now. You do have Microsoft going all in, like you said, Richie, with the cloud and Game Pass subscription. Like, they are doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on Game Pass. It's the value, and it's astronomical. And we discussed it at quite a bit of length last week. But then, like you said, PlayStation alluring to they believe in generations. Even though, as a side note, they've also recently announced Horizon and Spider-Man are then coming to PlayStation 4, which is their last generation. So for everybody giving Xbox shit about holding back X Series X because of the S and the One and the older iterations, PlayStation kind of doing the same thing still with like, you can't tell me Horizon Zero Dawn is built for the PS5 if it's coming out on PS4, right? There's got to be some things that come there.
It will be, because you can get, like, usually if you buy like a PC game, for example, there's usually your recommended specs and like the minimum requirements. So I think the minimum requirements for Horizon Zero Dawn and Horizon Forbidden West will be set to the PS4, where the recommended will be PS5 level.
Maybe. It's interesting what's under the hood, though. So, to give clarity on these prices then, so I've got them all on screen here for me. So the PlayStation 5 is dropping at $499, which matches the euros, $499, and then in pounds, we get shafted on exchange rates once again. It's $449.
Don't we always?
I mean, if you live in Australia, I know we don't have many Australian viewers, if any, because Stadia's not available in Australia yet. I've seen people moaning about like the additional cost just by exchange rates, and we've said on the podcast many times, it doesn't translate fairly, and that's because from a marketing standpoint, obviously they like that rounded figure, they like that sweet sale price at $99 or $49, whatever it may be, which as a consumer it's a bit frustrating, but that's everything business wise, technology wise. They did, however, undercut themselves with the PS5 all digital edition coming in at $100 or £90 cheaper.
That's I think there's a mistake in there when you compare it to the Xbox prices. So the PS5, the main version of the PS5, the one with the disc drive, matches up nicely with the Series X in pricing. The Series S is more than £100 cheaper than the digital version of the PS5.
But there is a reason for that, because the Series S specification is actually lower than the Series X, whereas the PS5 digital is actually on par. The only difference is that it's missing the storage devices, or the actual disk drive, itself. So the PS5 is just one rounded set of specifications. The only difference is the actual disk slot on it. But the Series X and the Series S, the S actually has lower specification. It's like it's like an Xbox One Pro 0.5.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, if you're looking for a console capable of playing the next generation of games on more of a budget, you're probably going to be more enticed by the Series S a lot than the digital PS5.
I agree, the price point is fantastic. And just to clarify those prices as well, so the Xbox Series S comes in at, as Richie said just now, the same as the PS5, so $499, same in euros, and £449. But the Series S, $100 lower, $299 or euros, and £249. So you can see it from a standpoint of like a Christmas purchase or something like that in the holiday season. It's much more affordable. But I think Microsoft are conning. Not conning. Conning's the wrong word, but I think it's going to catch a lot of people out long term. I think.
I don't know, because I think it's not again marketed as true 4K, and I still think 4K isn't like the end all be all at the moment. I don't think that it's. Yeah, I think it's right to have 4K options in your top tier of your console this generation, but your lower tier, being able to go up to 2K is probably fine. When I think most people probably still have 1080p tellies in their living rooms.
So just to clarify, because right at the beginning of all it, Richie, you said it's a mistake. Did you mean the actual price or just the?
Yes, I meant the pricing. I get this. It's a different concept where the PS5 they're going, okay, we'll give you a digital version which will be cheap, which is cheaper than the PS5, but it's still the PS5.
Yeah.
Where the Xbox Series S is basically a different console to Series X.
So a marketing mistake. I thought when you said it, I was like, have I read the price wrong or something?
No.
You said
I think it's a marketing mistake. And
Yeah.
to be honest, with the price of physical game, how much they depreciate, financially, you're much better off just going for the PS5.
I'm inclined to completely agree with you there. Actually, sorry, say that last part again, because now I think I completely disagree with you.
Well, how much physical games depreciate,
yes.
The difference in price between the PS5 digital and the PS5 standard, I'll call it the standard for now, because I think isn't that much. It's £90. That's a lot in one go.
Okay.
But I think you can save that quite quickly on buying cheaper physical titles.
Okay. No, we do agree then. That's what I wanted clarity on, because I was going to say, whenever we see the prices released for digital versions, they always tend to stick at their price point with only being like reduced in sales. Whereas physical, you're absolutely right, because stock needs to be moved. Those prices drop over time, and then you've got trade-ins and like for like there. £90 to me doesn't sell me a digital version. £90 difference, because over the longevity, the lifespan of that console, I'm going to save way more by buying second-hand games or buying games that have been out for a while instead.
It's not even that long. I think I bought Horizon Zero Dawn about 3 months after launch, and it already dropped in by like £20 in price.
Yeah, and that's what. So that's like 4 or 5 games, and you've already made that money back.
That's probably a year's worth of purchases, and you've made your money back. Yeah. And then you've got the rest of the console generation going forward.
Yeah, so to steer this all back around then, I think the key message we want to get at is obviously you've got PlayStation, Xbox both have their flagships that are up there.
Yep.
The $499 mark, $449 English pounds. And then you do have your different entry levels further down. Now, bottom of that pile financially, with Xbox seemingly not coming out with a dongle of sorts to support xCloud, which I think is what we both predicted. I think a lot of people in the industry, and myself included, presumed that the Series S was actually going to be the dongle form. It was going to be some kind of stick, went in the back of your TV, and that was going to support Game Pass, xCloud. And that was going to be the lowest of the low entry point into that Microsoft Xbox ecosystem. That's not happened for now. So as we climb back down the ladder of price, here we have Stadia.
Year.
Maybe.
Because if they release that this year, you're getting in the way of your own console launch a bit.
You could argue that with the 2 SKUs they've got at the moment.
Yeah.
Putting people making decisions. Because again, think about the families in Christmas coming to their purchasing decisions. If you're mum or dad and their kids want an Xbox this year, and there's one that's sat there £200 less, and you feasibly, like you said, the whole 4K argument. This like
how many kids are going to be disappointed? How many kids are going to be disappointed this Christmas?
£200 more on Sarah.
S instead of an X.
Yeah, it's going to be that rip open the wrapping paper, see Xbox super hyped, and then see it's the little tiny white one with the speaker face instead of the
at least it's better than one of those Chinese knockoffs on the Christmas markets.
It could be. But so to put a nice little bow on all that conversation about next gen and such, we need to probably just address that how Stadia really, really is still, and probably for a long time will be, the best entry into what I personally just look at next gen gaming. If we look at all cards on the table, all games on the table as well, because we put a little graphic up on our Sounds of Stadia Twitter account this past week that highlighted basically a list of all the games you can and will soon be able to play on Stadia and how they stack up comparable to next gen. And bar scratching out Call of Duty, there's not really any other big hitters that are on my radar that I would be bothered about personally. I don't know about you two. Is there any games that are coming to other platforms? Obviously now Sony have their exclusives there. Obviously we can't discount Miles Morales and such that are in the pipeline.
The stuff that we know is going to transition across generations that are very insanely popular already. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking about your things like your Fortnite, your Overwatch, your Apex Legends, stuff, things of that sort of caliber. they are, I think, still glaring misses on Stadia right now in terms of because of the sheer popularity and longevity of them games.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I'm with Richie on
yeah.
that. Mm.
But in
But for
terms
new
of the
games,
games,
it's-
you both are, yeah. Anything?
I'm still holding out that in the competition of things now that we've had like the PS5 announcement with like a selection of games announced there as well. I'm still holding out as a Final Fantasy fan that 16 is not just going to be. I know we've got PS5 console exclusive and PC, but does Stadia count as a console? That's what I want clarity on because I would love 16 to come to Stadia.
That's a very interesting legal definition, actually, when it comes down to contracts. Because I'm guessing Sony and Square will have squared that away between themselves.
Probably.
Because what happens if Square go and release it on Stadia and Sony like, what the hell? It's like, it's not a console.
It's not a console. I mean, it's not a
PC
console, it's a
either.
service.
It's like, yeah.
In my opinion, legally defined,
it comes on
Stadia is a
xCloud as well.
service. I mean, that's it. That's
why
it,
Square
really.
was so happy. Like, yeah, that seemed pretty good to us.
Yeah.
Good deal. Sign it.
But then if it's coming to PC, that means things like GeForce Now, you'll be able to play it through that, presumably, right?
That's a whole another.
And then
that
question mark.
That gets the most comparison to Stadia. Like, we've had many conversations about like people in the industry saying like it's a similar service, but and Richie, obviously you're down there, it's more of a utility, but then this is where you do get into that muddied war of how many little asterisks do you need next to console PC exclusive.
We're suddenly taking this, like, if you imagine it's like a tree hierarchy, you've got your console and it splits off into all these different things. We're now at such a level where we've got so many branches coming off that now, where everything's defined by several different niche terms. It's so
the
difficult.
old definitions don't really work anymore, because I would define as a console as the box that you put underneath your telly that is attached to your telly that physically plays the games from your living room. Where Stadia, even if you're playing through your Chromecast, that's just transmitting the signal. It's not actually processing the gameplay. So I wouldn't define the Chromecast as a console, but it's closer almost to PC gaming with extra steps.
Yeah, it's interesting how the terminology kind of moves around, because people now, like, when they say, oh, did you watch TV? What did you watch on TV last night? Obviously, they're referring to like classic channels or watching on what was on TV. And now people say, like, oh, we watched Netflix, we watched Amazon. So they actually don't refer to necessarily the traditional TV. It's cloud gaming, cloud streaming, man. It's taken over. Everything's in the cloud. Yeah. It's going to come and get us.
I think it might be one of them where the legal definitions are kind of down in between like the developers and publishers and platform holders, but maybe it's just how the press are reporting on it. They haven't updated their terminology. So maybe cloud gaming is now a separate category that's probably discussed in these sort of contracts. But
yeah, other than that, for me, that's the only one that I could think of that stand out currently, because again, I've been quite vocal about the fact that I'm a lover of JRPGs. I've always been into the Final Fantasy series. It's the series that I was sort of born into and grew up into gaming. And to see an announcement for a new Final Fantasy title now, that just makes me want it, and that will be very definitive over my decision as to where to go next gen. If I can't get it on Stadia, I would love to see it on Stadia. So that to me is the one big franchise that sticks out there, really. But I appreciate it's not for everyone.
Yeah. See, I'm like you. I'm a big Final Fantasy fan. I'm okay if it's a PS5 platform exclusive, because I'm buying a PS5 anyway. So it's not affecting me personally. But if you were very much in the Xbox or Stadia only ecosystem and the big Final Fantasy fan, bear in mind, was 15 a launch game for Stadia or very early?
Yeah, no, 15 came out with at launch for Stadia.
Yeah, you might have been sat there hoping that 16 would come. But, well, it's still a question mark. So
interesting deals that are happening all over the place. In regards to that, then we'll touch briefly on the shit show that was the pre-orders for the PlayStation 5, and I think we should address probably that it wasn't Sony's fault evidently with this. They said we'll give you notice. They said pre-orders will start tomorrow from selected retailers. And then Walmart, I want to say it was Walmart Canada or something, just like broke the dam and they went early. And then rightly so, every other business thought, well, we're going to lose out here if we don't go as well. And it was just basically a free-for-all. hopefully these companies get fined. I know if you break embargoes and stuff, that's a big thing in the mobile industry. When Apple send out their iPhones, if you so much as unbox just the packaging they come in prior to like an 8 a.m. deadline, you will get fined and stripped and blah blah blah. So I'd imagine similar rules come into play with these digital companies and Sony. And if the same thing happens for Microsoft next week, you'd imagine they've got to hold them accountable, right? Like pull back on the pre-orders, or
I don't know how hard you can actually go, because Sony will rely on these people as it's a distribution network for their physical goods.
But if they're not going to adhere to the rules, it's like, how long do you keep?
Oh yeah, there's going to be some angry conversations, but I don't know how much you can actually penalise them, because you'd be shooting yourself in the foot.
I mean, they've
If
sold out.
Walmart turn around and go,
22.
sod it, it's not worth it. We made a mistake, and you're being absolute dicks about it. We're just gonna pull the line.
Well, that's where your contract needs to have embargo rules in that say, you go, by all means, if you want to go ahead of time, be it on your own back, but we are going to fine you, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Because it's a bad look. It's a bad look to have.
Yeah.
And
it happens all the time. Like,
does it?
It's not necessarily with console launches, but we always hear about things like Amazon have accidentally listed the game prematurely and stuff like that.
It just caused a bit of a free for all. So I mean, I'd be interested to know if either of you two are thinking or have done or secured said pre-order.
No.
No, I'm not going to until I've got more clarity about what titles are coming out. The titles that are currently announced for it are not enough to sell the console to me yet. So I'm going to sort of wait until the new year and sort of gauge it at that point there.
How does everything being super sold out affect your take on it all? Like, does it make you think, maybe I should have? Or are you going to worry that come next March you're still going to struggle to get hold of one? Or
no, because I was never desperate to get my hands on it day one anyway. I am going to buy it, but it's more a case of when, and like Tom, I haven't really got that answer yet.
I'm struggling to wonder whether I'm starting to become more of a casual gamer now, because like with the PS4, I was very much, I had to have it day one. I was very much about that. As an adult, having my own income, my own place and stuff like that, I was very much like, right, I can afford it, I'm going to do it. Yeah, pretty much splash the cash. But this time I'm not as bothered.
Have you got more patience?
I'm just not. I think I've got more patience now. I think there's nothing on there that excites me that much that I need to have it. Like, the only thing that I've seen so far for the PS5 that catches my attention, other than Final Fantasy 16, but we don't actually have a date for that yet, is Demon's Souls Remastered, or the remake for it, which looks beautiful, by the way. And I love the Soulsborne games, but yeah.
I was going to say, in with Demon's Souls, did you see that came out saying console and PC, but then in the after release they actually scrubbed the PC part from it, and they've said, we've got no plans to bring it to PC yet, but it was on the showcase, which is like, okay, that's an interesting.
I mean, how many times have we seen the Stadia logo in trailers for games that have not even come out yet? So I mean, totally people are cocking up left and right at the moment.
Yeah, see, I think for me, I'm excited to get my hands on the PS5 eventually, but the reason I don't think I need it immediately is because the PS4 still seems like a pretty good console.
Yeah.
And there's still a back catalogue of games I haven't touched, so I'm not in no mad rush to even to play something like Final Fantasy 16. I don't need to play that day and date.
No, and people argue as well that the PlayStation Plus collection will give you like a much wider range of games. But to be honest, I look at that list and I think I've played all of those games anyway.
Yeah,
so
I've played most of the ones I want to play.
Yeah, it doesn't actually add any real value to me because I've already played, as Richie just said, most of the games that I care about.
Yes.
Yeah. As for the Xbox side of the argument, no. Like, again, there's nothing on the Xbox right now that makes me even want to consider it. Like, the only title that I would have considered is probably Halo Infinite. But again, we already know that's been knocked back. So there is again, no interest there for me personally.
Yeah, so, again, to keep it in line with Stadia, because again, we wouldn't want to make our 1 year anniversary episodes all about the competition. So sorry if you're still here and thinking, are they actually going to get onto Stadia specific at any point?
We are.
We are, and we want to keep it specific. So the comparison I'd like to make is, you mentioned it there, Tom, that PlayStation Plus collection, which is essentially, if you've never played them before, you've missed out, or if you've skipped this whole Sony generation. It's a wonderful shoe in the door. Day one at launch, you get titles like God of War, Uncharted 4, The Last of Us remastered. Final Fantasy wasn't there, I believe. There's Mortal Kombat. There's Arkham Knight. There's a whole slew of games that are top tier. How does that compare with Game Pass is one argument, but then how does it compare with Stadia Pro? So at the moment we've got 22 games come September. You can essentially pay your subscription just like you could PlayStation Plus or Game Pass, instant access to 20 plus games. I think for Stadia this is still where and Microsoft as well I think is in a similar camp with Stadia. The list of games accessible there just doesn't hold a torch up to those Sony exclusives, which is why as we lead in the next generation, these that age-old conversation comes back around to Stadia needs these big titles to really, really like push their audience and their catalogs, and you can only play this here because games like God of War, Uncharted 4, and such, they bring that audience to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
very true.
Which do you think is the best proposition? If you've not touched gaming in many a year, and you're thinking, right, I'm looking at getting back in. I've got some money saved aside. This holiday season, this Christmas, I'm going to treat myself. Do you go Series S with Game Pass? Do you go PlayStation 4 Pro maybe? Do you go PS5 with the game collection? Or Stadia with the 22, 25, whatever it may be at the time?
I wouldn't go PS4 Pro. If I was getting a console now, I'd either be going... It's probably if I was getting a console now, I was interested in PlayStation, I'm probably looking at either digital or the PS5.
Yeah.
I think PS Plus has the best catalogue.
PlayStation has always, and Sony have always had the greatest storytelling IPs, I believe. I don't think Xbox comes anywhere near that in terms of the quality of the IP that Sony actually has. So Sony can throw around their weight with that. I mean, titles like you look at the Game of the Year winning titles there, like God of War, for example, like they are on such a high tier that they are games that do need to be played. They're like the equivalent of like a classic film. You have to like as a true gamer, these are sorts of like the experiences that you need to have had. And I think the PS Plus collection is probably the best value for money of giving you that experience as a gamer compared to Game Pass. I do think, taking the Stadia argument, I do think you are absolutely right there. That is where Stadia needs to up its game moving to the next generation, because at the moment, like we can sing its praises for saying like we've gotten so many titles on Stadia Pro every month. That value for money on a monthly basis is incredible. Mm-hmm. But when you pit it up and look at the two lists side by side, one list is very much platinum game of the year, and one list is very much
the rest.
Like it's sort of like you're searching the bins outside the back of the shop for scraps, really, kind of thing.
For me, it kind of comes down to what you want. I think Stadia has the best value for money proposition, but I think Game Pass is the best service. Mm-hmm. But I think PS Plus has the best games.
Yeah.
And then again, it comes down to personal preference of what you're looking for. But for me, as a big like narrative-driven gamer, sorry, but Hitman. The original Hitman, or reboot Hitman, wherever it may be, even though it's one of the probably bigger pro titles we've had, Metro Exodus, those kind of things, they do not hold a torch anywhere near up to the quality that is God of War and The Last of Us. Like they are well off the mark.
It's a difference between something being a blockbuster and a cult hit.
Yeah,
I'd say so. Yeah. And that's where Hitman and I think
I agree.
Metro, they're cult classics where God of War is a blockbuster title.
Certainly. But I think one thing what we should pivot back towards that you mentioned there, Richie, is the value. Yeah. Like, the reality is, a Stadia Premier Edition is clocking in currently at £89.99 or $99 over in the States. And regardless of how much value the Series S gets you in the door, this is less than £100, $100. And you're in there with your Chromecast.
You can just start with Google Chrome.
That's true. Yeah, I'm talking about like the TV experience. If you have that shitty old Chromebook I mentioned earlier on, or your old your old PC or something, you can just jump in and play straight away with your pro games, or even without, depending if there's just one particular title you want to play. So the value is undoubtedly there, and stacking up side by side. I'd love to see a graph of just like all the games that we made last week, but then alongside Stadia price, Xbox price, and then really see how the general consumer is going to buy into it and understand it. And I do think it's a long game, because I don't think little Timmy out there, 15-year-old, if you gave him a Chromecast stick for Christmas and a Stadia controller, he would know what the hell to do with that. would the parents know what to do with that? And this is where things like marketing and explanation and understanding of it need to really like up their game. Which brings us on to our second story of the week, which is the Chromecast, Sabrina, codename Sabrina. It's kind of like revealed itself, which essentially, I forgot the story up here. It comes with a little remote, guys. It looks a little bit bigger than your traditional Chromecast stick. It must be out soon, right? We don't have a price confirmed for it. They are hosting an event, Google, on the 30th of September, so we shouldn't have to wait too long to hear about it. But it looks like it's essentially going to incorporate Google TV, so all of your apps and such. Similar to what Chromecast does anyway, but without the need for casting from your mobile device, your mobile phone. It's going to be an all-in-one HDMI port. This has got to come with Stadia built into it, right? To start getting it into people's homes visibly. So when they boot their TV, they have it alongside the likes of Netflix and Amazon Prime. I
would have thought so, but looking at the image of the remote for audio listeners, it's basically a classic oval remote. It looks like it's got almost like an old throwback iPod wheel at the top for navigation, a Google Assistant button, things like home and mute and volume stuff. But then it's got YouTube and Netflix buttons. If it was going to come built in with Stadia, I would have thought there would be a Stadia button in there.
Bear in mind, it's a leak and buttons can change. We've seen that from the PS4 Media Remote. Different countries have got different logo buttons on. Some have Disney Plus, some have Netflix. So depending on your territory, it may be different. And so with a leak, this could just be a pre-render, but when they come to market, it could have a Stadia button.
It's very true. I think what we need to actually consider with this as well is the newest Chromecast. So there's a couple of things that you need to point out here. Obviously, as we actually don't have an official release yet or an official list of specification, again, a lot of this is sort of speculation at this point. So one thing that I think is really important to recognize with this is supposedly this version of the Chromecast as well actually does have the Bluetooth controller enabled, so you will be able to connect Bluetooth devices to this Chromecast in particular. So what that means is if you were going to get into the Stadia ecosystem, you wouldn't actually need to invest in a Stadia Premier Edition if you've got a DualShock controller, for example. You could actually just hook it up over Bluetooth to this device right here and then be straight away with something like Stadia. Secondly, because it uses Android TV, I've mentioned before, that gives you access to all of the apps on the Android store as well. So you could arguably also access something like xCloud as well through the service, GeForce Now through the Chromecast too. So I can see where Google's game is here in terms of providing a very good cost to entry point level service, but maybe they're steering away from including that Stadia button at the moment because of those other applications, and maybe they have to do, in the art of fairness, with all the lawsuits going on, they have to sort of be like open to the prospects that people might use it for something else. That's my take.
You have to think about as well, the team that's making this is a completely different team, probably a different company to the Google Stadia team. So they've probably been considered it, but you've got limited space on the controller. What is most likely going to be used for this product? And YouTube and Netflix, I think, will be by far the biggest two.
Yeah. I'd agree with that statement right there compared to Stadia. I get what you're saying with like having a Stadia button on there as a focal point to try to get people into the system. But
something I'd like to see from Google where like, you know, you have that across all the entire product range kind of working in sync nicely. So pushing Stadia through other avenues.
But you could also then argue as well that, like, why don't they have, for example, why don't they have a Gmail button? Why don't they have a Duo button? You know, there's so many services that Google could arguably have buttons for. I think you're right with what you said there, that the biggest ones that they're going to want to market the device for is people watch YouTube, people watch Netflix, I get what you're saying with Stadia. Like, I completely get it. But again, I don't think people are going to buy it specifically for Stadia. I think sometimes you buy a device and you get a remote and you look at the remote and it's like, oh, what's that button for? Oh, press it. It's just a shitty service I don't want to actually use, so I'm just going to come off it anyway. Not saying that Stadia is shitty. Let me just be clear. I'm not saying that Stadia is shitty.
Yeah, Tom said Stadia is shitty.
But you get what I mean. Like with the Sky remotes and stuff like that, chances are you've hit a button before and you've gone to a page that you go, oh, I didn't want to go there, so just go back. That's what I'm thinking.
What's interesting is Google are hosting an event on the 30th of September.
Is it
so
a
we're
Connect?
guessing we'll know more. No, it's not Stadia hosting an event, it's a Google event. So I'm guessing we'll know more by next month.
Pixel 5.
Yeah, potentially.
Pixel 5. That's where I see that.
It'll lean in with their rebrand of all the Nest and Home stuff as well.
The next generation of like Nest
Changes
and
to,
Google Homes and Chromecast and Pixel stuff.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
changes in
Stadia
general.
might have a presence.
Well, speaking of presents, Richie, that bring presents as we head into the holiday Christmas season. Stadia has been seen in Best Buy physical retail. So if you are in the United States, you can head over to Best Buy, or you can order it online. I don't know if it's appeared physically yet, but Best Buy in general are like Walmart, as they're like they sell loads of stuff, supermarket kind of deal. I think I say that I've never been in one.
Yeah. No, Best Buy is your sort of like mix of. It's a little bit like your sort of PC world.
Oh, okay. So like loads of tech stuff and
a lot of techie stuff. Yeah,
washers
a lot of
and
techie
dryers
stuff.
and things like that.
Yes.
So over this side, obviously, this is just kind of what we'd probably hoped would have happened a year ago now. Stadia having a physical presence in the wider kind of things. I know our PC World and Currys over here sell the likes of the Google Chromecast. They sell the Nest Hub speakers and such, but they haven't sold Stadia physically. And for me, that's been, as someone who used to work in retail, that's such a simple fix, a bugbear. Just get the Premier Editions on the shelves so people can see them, read about them, just look at the poster advertised on the wall. It's just such a simple way to get in, especially when you've already got marked out Google zones in those stores. And you've got staff who talk about these products, and they understand how Chromecast works and how having a Gmail account set up works and Chromebooks and all that. It seems like such a simple win, and yet they've waited a year to do so. So hopefully this is just future big signs that as we head into Black Friday and the Christmas season, they're going to start ramping up this physical marketing presence, because 52 weeks in, guys, we've seen barely zip from them.
There's one thing I need to correct you on there. It's only on the online store at the moment.
Yes,
it is.
But it's a step towards it. So I'd imagine if Best Buy is seeing a lot of Google Stadia selling through the online store, they're going to get it in the physical.
Well, considering that originally the only place you could buy it from was the Google store, this is a step forwards in terms of marketing it to the masses. So in the UK, we could probably expect to see it coming soon, trademark, to Curry's PC World. By example, that's what I would expect next in the UK. And in other stores as well, it'll roll out to their local sort of like national electronics chains.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of mad it's not on Amazon yet.
I mean, Amazon don't play well with
the biggest digital
Google.
retailer.
Amazon do not play well with Google. They've never sold any Google Home devices. I am right with that.
No, you're right, Tom. They did start to. I think they started to roll back on some of the rules, but obviously they're not going to sell a Chromecast when Amazon Fire Stick is like their product. But then I think EU pressures and such about like consumer friendly. If you're going to be a logistical storefront, you need to have open. You can't just block Google from selling their stuff. But it goes back to like physical presence. That in the UK we have a store called CEX, which is it's like an exchange shop. You'll have them in the state. You'll have them all over. They basically take pre-ordered stuff in. They'll give you like low valuations on it, and they'll mark it up and put it back on the shelves for all consoles, all games, DVDs, books, and such like that. That's the only shop in the UK high street you can pick up a physical Stadia Premier Edition or Founders Edition or anything, because there's nowhere else that does them, which is crazy, right?
Yeah,
Stadia's been around for nearly 1 year, and if you want to just walk in and pick one up, you have to go to a second-hand trade company to get one. That's a bad look, right? For what they want to be a competitor to PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo.
You need to be in the physical, especially the game-centric stores. That's where you kind of want your presence, because people go there to buy the games and will see it.
Yeah. If I want a Stadia, I shouldn't have to pick up a second-hand one.
Yeah.
No. Shouldn't be a thing.
Not when they're selling them. I mean, I've just done a quick check on CEX as well, and they're selling the controllers at 50 quid, 55 quid, 50 quid just for the controllers themselves. And I'm sitting here thinking, they're not that much more expensive to get it brand new, packaged directly from manufacturer.
I wonder if anyone's picked one up thinking it was like a Pro controller for Switch or something. You know, like, again, back to the mum and dad getting their kids the wrong one scenario. Oh, it had an S on the front. Was that not Switch? Sorry, Timmy. You can hook it up to whatever it may be.
Yeah, Xbox Series S when you ask for the X.
Yeah, it's not an S, isn't it? S for Sony, right? That's how it works. Yeah, something crazy like that. But hopefully this is the sign of bigger movements in the world. And with the Sabrina Chromecast, whatever it ends up being called, coming out, fingers crossed they've just saved up some money to double down on physical marketing and also digital marketing. I think we're all probably ready to see Stadia really step up the marketing level as we head into this Christmas and go, you know what, parents, if you're in the market for next-gen gaming for yourself or your children, save that money, save that extra $200 and just spend it on games. The reality is, if you want FIFA, if you want Cyberpunk, if you want Assassin's Creed Valhalla, you can save that $200, get all of these games, and you've got them to play anywhere. Yeah. So it's but they need to market this. They need to really, really start marketing it.
They need to get in the heads of the kids that this is a thing that where you can play the games you want, because you know what it's like being on the playground when you're kids. Like, you're talking about what console you're after. That war between, like, in the past it was Sega versus Nintendo, and more recently is Xbox versus Sony. You need to be in that conversation.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm hopeful that the push into the new year will be on marketing for Stadia. I don't think they should start ramping up the marketing now with the release of next gen. I think now is a bad time to start ramping up the marketing, and I think the run up to Christmas actually arguably may be okay, just not now, not at this point in time. But going into the new year 2021, I think we could start to see a big push for it once people start to see things like PS5s being sold out and, you know, the cost for Christmas and stuff like that.
See, I think they need to do it now. Just they need to get the price up there, just because they need an advert that showcases Cyberpunk, FIFA, Valhalla, all of these huge games, and then right at the end of the advert, all you need is a Chromecast stick and a controller, and it's $99. And then any parent who either can't get a pre-order or their kids are going, Mom, Dad, I want to play FIFA this year, I want to play Assassin's Creed this year, or Watch Dogs, whatever game it may be, I want to play it. And the parents are honestly, like, it's been a tough year. There's a lot of people who are going to be economically, like, and financially struck, and they're not fortunate enough. And then if your kid, like, no one wants to let their kids down at Christmas, right? Well, no good parent, I'd like to think. If it comes to it, though, that could be the difference between, sorry, Timmy, we can't get you an Xbox or a PlayStation. It's just too much, or I just can't get a pre-order for one. I'm really, really sorry. You can't play Valhalla or whatever this year. I mean, they probably shouldn't be, because it's a higher rated game age-wise. But
yeah,
like, this is an honest. It's an outlet that we know works. It's there. They probably have a TV already. They've probably got a mobile phone, because kids have mobile phones from like 3-year-old upwards now. They could just play it in the bedroom using this. And I think the marketing, it's not so much to market the presence of Stadia, it's to show the competition that it exists. And if you don't have the money, this is a perfectly viable option for you to play these games without putting down or committing to like a 2-year financial plan for an Xbox.
I don't disagree with what you're saying. Like, I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I just think at the moment there's so much in the firing line for Xbox and PlayStation. I just think there's so much going on there right now that maybe it just needs to wait until after that November 19th date. Like, after the 1-year anniversary of Stadia, then I'm all for it. After that, once the consoles are out, fine, have a free-for-all, just go for it.
Is that too close to Christmas, though? In terms of, I don't
buy my Christmas presents until a week before Christmas.
Yes, I know people who start buying the Christmas presents like now or even like last month.
Yeah.
Some people, especially if you're not as well financially, you're going to try and spread that cost over the year.
Funny you should mention that, though, actually, Tom. That's just brought me back to something we didn't discuss when we were covering PlayStation. In the UK, it comes out on Stadia's birthday.
Oh, I'm pissed off about this. I am pissed off about this. Why? Why is it that PlayStation 5 comes out in other countries on the 12th of November, but it comes out a week later on Stadia's birthday in the UK? What's up with that?
Logistics?
The only thing I can think of is just, logistics. They've already fucked up the pre-orders.
Yeah. It's definitely a weird one, because if they've had all of this time to plan it, why can't you just have an additional? Because they said they were booking flights, right? They've got cargo freights to take these shipments out. Planes can go any direction, as far as I'm aware. So maybe just deviate one from whatever country over. I know there's more stuff.
There's probably a bit of politics going on, like not
import tax
between businesses.
Blah, blah, blah,
actual politics because of Brexit, unfortunately.
It might be. It could
launching
be things to do with.
separate to launching in the UK, where in the past it would be a single launch.
Maybe it's something to do with freight and COVID and stuff like that
Yeah.
as well, and isolation periods and all that shit.
It's certainly a bitter pill when I'm going to see my social media light up with, "Hey, we've got it!" But hey, I'm still going to get one before anyone else.
I've just platinumed Ratchet and Clank.
Well, the thing is, you're not going to get a load of people go, "Hey, I've got it," because it's all the scalpers who've bought like 8 of them because on the pre-orders
Yes.
they'll have them.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
you don't get that with Stadia. You just need a website, and you can get on and play. But yeah, I just
Another
thought it was just another kind of a knife twist,
Bugbear.
a knife twist
Yeah.
in there. That it's like, oh yeah, so Stadia's first birthday is coming up, and the largest winner of last gen consoles with 111 million sold is going to launch their new platform in the UK. And not only
They
that,
know what they're doing.
not only that, Cyberpunk to boot, day and date will launch.
But how many Android phones are there in the market? Because every single one of them can play Stadia.
True, but does
Stadia
every
just cheated.
but does everyone know that? What's a Stadia?
Yeah.
What is a Stadia?
What is a
Stadia
Stadia?
still a thing?
Yeah. When's Stadia coming to India? That's the important question.
Yeah,
I've seen that
yeah.
all over the place.
And Brazil.
And Brazil, yeah. Come on, Stadia. Come on, Google. Get it together and show us what you've got this holiday season.
We know you can.
We know you can. Moving on though to some actual game news. We spoke of the consoles and the platforms. Gaming wise, we got a nice surprise. We are getting Hotline Miami 1 and 2. We touched on it, I think, last week, but it's been officially confirmed. Comes out this Tuesday. So if you are listening to this
Nice.
podcast on the Monday, tomorrow, we're going to get it. Hopefully at midnight, because I think a story we should probably touch on as well is that WWE Battlegrounds dropped at midnight in the UK last week. We didn't have to wait till
That's quite
5
nice.
p.m. So right off our rants and raves a fortnight ago regarding days coming and on the midnight launch of that day, we got it for Battlegrounds. It's just unfortunate that Battlegrounds is a piss poor game in my opinion.
Ooh, shots fired.
It's
shots
not
fired.
short. I've not played a wrestling game in so long, and I had my brother around the other day, and I was trying to showcase Stadia, and I went, "Look at that! There's the game. Buy now."
Of all the games to pick.
Well, we used to play SmackDown vs. Raw all the time, so we've got
Yeah.
fond memories. And to be fair, I used to throw him off the couch all the time and put him in headlocks and stuff like that. So he's well versed in the moves of the WWE. So I thought he's my phone.
From
Look.
personal
Yeah,
experience.
from personal experience. Here's the game. Buy now. There it is on the big TV. There's a controller for you. There's a controller for me. Boosh. No loads. No installs. We're playing it within a minute from purchase to play, as we've quite often showcased on this channel. Jumped in. What can I say? Poor roster, in my opinion. A lot of the legends, so your Stone Colds, your Hulk Hogan's, locked behind skill points, so you need to play the game to unlock the characters. So again, we just wanted to jump in with a match or two together. The Royal Rumble, as far as I could tell, was only one player. So we had to do like a cage match or something instead. It wasn't 2 player for the Royal Rumble. Whether that's just something that's locked behind it, I don't know. We started the campaign a little bit to just pass the controller back. It's got comic book kind of campaign stories that then lead you into the matches, and just all in all, we played it for about an hour or so, and I think we both agreed it wasn't worth the $34.99 price point, and that's a brand new game, so refunded it, got my money back. Not great.
Okay, that's fair.
And that is filling
At
in
least
for
you've got.
the 2K21 game that was also delayed or cancelled from this year.
At least you've actually got the opportunity to do that. Like then and there, you can sit down, buy the game instantly, try it out, and then go, "Do you know what? It isn't what I thought it was. It's not worth the money that I paid for it. Refund." At least you don't have to. You didn't have to get up off your ass, go to the shop, buy a physical copy, bring it back, install it, then take it back to the shop when you've decided, you know what? Nah. At least there's a bet.
Yeah.
There's
If it was physical,
a
I probably
nice
wouldn't
part.
have been asked. I'd have just left it and went, that was a waste of money.
But again, bringing it back to Stadia.
I'll trade it in several months' time for far less.
It's a bit of a shame, really, because it sort of reminded me when I saw WWE Battlegrounds that it was very much like it was very reminiscent to me of like the old wrestling figures and like prattling around with wrestling figures and stuff, because they've got that sort of like big beefy upper body type like weird sort of shape to them. And so I thought it would be very much like reminiscent of that sort of experience.
I mean, there's a little bit like that when you go through the roster and you get to the locked characters, which are the ones you want to play as, like The Rock and Stone Cold and Hulk Hogan are all
Naturally.
locked. They actually are in plastic packaging, And when you select the character, they kind of bang on the plastic like they want to be let out. It's just unfortunate. It's like 7,000 points to unlock Stone Cold. So you need to then go into the game. And again, it's you can buy additional currency, but it's more of you need to play the game to unlock it. Whereas when I jumped in with my brother, we just wanted the full roster to play multiplayer, like free play.
Yeah.
I didn't want to have to start the campaign, accrue points to then unlock a legendary character. I just wanted. I understand it's just gaming and it's gamification and.
But this is what I don't like about like the gaming industry in general at the moment, because if you take a game like SmackDown versus Raw, back in classic PS1 days, you didn't have to worry about having to do anything like that with the roster. I know the means weren't available at the time to having to like, enter your credit card information to buy a character over like online. But
it's going back to the old memes of you've bought the game, now enter your credit card details to buy the rest of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to fast track this, pop in the details and you can have all your characters now. But
it's like it feels like you're artificially getting in the way of my fun. In order to milk me for money. It's like
you're not getting any additional gameplay out of the game by unlocking the character.
It's not like a hidden character like in some of the Tony Hawk's games. You could unlock things like Spider-Man or Iron Man.
Yeah, it would be
stuff like that, where this is a secret character that's awesome if you manage to unlock him.
Like for Marvel Avengers, I expect that when a new character is released, that they come with some sort of story missions that you'll be able to play in some sort of like extension of the campaign, perhaps something like that. But with a game like WWE 2K Battlegrounds, I imagine you don't get any additional story out of it. It's just literally you can jump into a Royal Rumble, jump into a Hell in a Cell or something like that.
Avengers is a good comparison because although I haven't finished the story, I can jump in on multiplayer and select Captain America, so I've got my full roster there, even though I haven't unlocked the full roster. So it doesn't get in the way of my enjoyment of the game.
Yeah.
It's an interesting one, but it's modern games, right? And some companies lean into that more than others do. You know why? Like I understand why they do it. It's just as someone who's played them for years, and like I could like again we say about old physical games, but I could go get my SmackDown versus Raw from 2005, put it into my old PlayStation 2 right here, and I'd have that full roster to go.
Yeah,
and that's a game that's 15-year-old now, so.
But the thing is, because of that practice, has just lost himself 35 quid.
Yeah, unfortunately. So, but either way, what are you going to do? Speaking of weird, annoying things within games or the court of law, another story we had this week was that we may have found a little news tidbit that told us why Gods and Monsters was changed its name. I mean, they told us in the Ubisoft forward that it was because of we had longer to work on the game, and for our vision, we really felt this name better fitted our scope and views and stories and such.
Was it hell?
It was because Monster of energy drink fame, not sponsored.
Monster
apparently had some classic gamers, aren't we? Apparently had a problem with them using monsters. Because the Monster is represented in the gaming industry, they sponsor esports and lots of things. So apparently, Gods and Monsters is too close to the name. Even though I've been playing Monster Boy week in, week out without copyright infringement. Apparently, it's Immortals is
You know what I'm going to say? Monster, I like your beverages. Stop being a bunch of dicks.
Yeah. Stop.
Like, it's a word that exists long before your brand. If you're not happy with people using this, change your branding. It's like
it's not on. It's such shitty practice. Like from any level.
Ubisoft are using it in the actual context. It's referring to monsters which appear in the game, not an energy drink.
Yep.
If I was Ubisoft, I'd go get a sponsorship by Red Bull just to screw them.
It's an interesting one. I mean, Ubisoft have since came out and said the name change for Immortals Phoenix Rising reflects a creative decision and is not a result of legal matters. As stated in the past, the extra development time allowed us to push our initial vision even further and explore new avenues for the game. As this vision was coming to life and developing a more mature tone, we felt the game needed a new name to better reflect those changes. Great statement. I do not believe in a million years they sat in their Ubisoft... Well, probably they didn't sit in the room because they're all working from home. But I don't believe anyone got them on a conference call on Zoom or Microsoft Teams and went, guys, I've got an idea. Scrap Gods and Monsters. Listen to this. Immortals Phoenix Rising. And everyone went, oh, he's got it, John, he's got it. Yes, do
Give
it.
that guy a bonus.
Change the logo. Yeah. Yves Gizmon sat there going, "Oh yes. It
Here's
did
an even
not
better
happen."
idea.
Like, come
Let's
on.
call it Immortals and lock the Phoenix Rising behind a paywall.
Ooh,
The thing is,
shade.
cast doubt over Ubisoft's statement is that, well, we know legal documentation that exists that shows that Monster were contesting the title.
Yeah, I mean, again, that might not be the only
You've been rumbled,
reason.
Ubisoft. You've been rumbled.
Not Royal Rumbled. No.
Never
Either
actually made
way,
it to court, by the way. Never made it to court. So that tells me that they saw the paperwork and they sort of like started shaking in their boots a little bit and just went, let's change
It's
it.
entirely possible Ubisoft were planning on changing the title anyway, and then this trademark application came through and it's like, let's just do it.
Yeah.
That was
It's not
the
we're
fire
not
that
wedded
lit
on the
the flame.
title. Yeah, we're not wedded on that title.
flame.
We're just using that as a basically provisional title. Let's just change it.
Just wait until Riders Republic comes out, sponsored by Monster Supercross Energy Drink Plus, whatever that one was called.
Relentless.
What are you going to do? But
God.
all daft political challenges aside, the final news stories of the week. We did have 2 new games drop on Stadia this past 7 days. One of them being Uno.
DOS.
No,
Yeah.
that hasn't dropped
Once
yet.
again, I told you, I think I'm just gonna have to buy.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna have to buy Uno on Stadia just for the sake of saying that I've got it on literally every single platform that I can possibly get Uno on. Because I feel at this point that I've got Uno on so many different platforms that I might as well just have it on Stadia.
I've never
as
played.
well.
I don't think I've ever played a game round of Uno.
It's
in my
actually,
life.
do you know what? It's actually damn fun. Like if you just want to kill some time and just have a laugh with mates, it is actually relatively fun.
We might have to test that one out on a live stream some point, Tom. We may just have
Mayhaps.
to. The other game that dropped this week was Republique, which has been long coming. I feel like we got that announcement way back when, and then it just shadow dropped.
I want to say March or April we had the announcement for that.
Yeah. How do we feel these shadow drops impact some smaller titles? Because I feel like because it was announced and it took so long and then it got shadow dropped, I don't think anybody cares about it. I think it's came and gone.
Yeah.
Like I've not seen anyone on Twitter playing it. I've not seen anyone do live streams. I don't know. I feel like it's one that's just going to be there.
And on Stadia Source, they actually do a really good job of you can archiving their news articles by game. They first reported on Republic 7 months ago
Ooh, so that was a
in
lot.
an article called "Could Republic be coming to Stadia?" And it was 5 months ago that it was actually confirmed along with Monster Boy and West of
Wow.
Loathing.
Well,
That was it. Yes, it was that announcement. I remember now.
Yeah.
but yeah, it just seems to have came and went really.
Long time.
I have no interest, and I think this is again the risk that happens when we don't have a roadmap. We don't have the days because then you can't build hype towards something, and when it's shadow dropped on a random Tuesday, people are busy, right? They can't they forget about it and they move on with their lives.
As a content creator, one thing that I would like for us to be able to do in a weekly podcast is to have a section devoted to games coming out on Stadia.
Yeah.
So we could be like, right, okay, list games coming out on Stadia this week, bosh, and just go through those and be able to do that. But the problem is with shadow drops like this is that we don't get that opportunity to actually do that whatsoever. And a game like Republique could very much come out like. I've not been very well lately, and I'll be honest with you, I don't get to check the Stadia store as much anymore now that school has started back up again. So I just find out when I open the app, perhaps several days later, and see all of a sudden it's under the new games section. I've got no idea that that's happened at the moment. So, yeah, we need a little bit more clarity on that, I think.
Yeah, we did it actually. I think in some of the early episodes, try to have here's a list of upcoming games sort of stuff, but it was just because the information was so fragmented, it was impossible to keep it going.
Difficult to keep on top of that.
Yeah, we kind of report after the fact rather than before the fact.
Yeah.
I know someone mentioned in the comments thing last week saying, "Oh, these news stories would have been great earlier in the week." It was like, but we don't know about them because we don't have that roadmap.
Yeah.
So, again, fingers crossed. It's something. It's just stuff that can be worked on. And another one, I think, before we wrap up with the week, is Dead by Daylight still. September release, right? And we've got
Question mark.
We've got at the time of this podcast going live. There's 10 days left of the month, and we still don't have a date. So again, how does this hamper people wanting to play it or getting hyped for it, or do they start as gamers? We obviously don't want to embark on whole new games in between other ones. So if someone's gonna just about to start the Division 2, and then this shadow drops next Tuesday,
You know what?
you're committed elsewhere.
I'm holding out this could be an October Pro game. That might be why they're sitting on it.
I think we would have heard about it by now. If it's coming out in
Really?
September. I mean, I'd
Do
like
we know
it
that's
to
coming
be.
out in September?
Yeah, they said
Is that
September.
confirmed?
Yeah, it did say September.
Connect, right? When it was.
We should find out our October Pro games next week. Next Wednesday, I reckon, is roughly right about the sort of time. Actually, do you know what? We could get a lastminute.com because we usually get the announcements like on the Tuesday or Wednesday right before like the end of the month.
Yeah.
That would sit us on the 29th, 30th. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't get an announcement till the very end of the month, actually.
29th.
But yeah.
Tuesday, 29th.
Yeah.
And it's out now.
Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me again.
Interesting.
Fragmented information.
Fragmentous occasion. And then final probably one we want to touch on is we saw some stuff going around in the Twitterverse this week about Stadia staff promoting other brands like PlayStation and such on their personal accounts, showing off Avengers and screenshots, and they were excited about pre-ordering the PlayStation 5. Quick take from you gentlemen about it. Richie, you can go first. Does this bother you? Does this have a massive impact on your life, or...?
No, I people are people. They're more than just a job, so they're free to. And bear in mind, most of these people have got into gaming, working in the gaming industry, probably because they love gaming. So yeah,
Awesome.
fine.
Tom, bothered?
Not in the slightest. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. They can advertise whatever they want. I get that they are representing a brand, but at the end of the day, they're still human beings and individuals.
Yeah.
I myself am very vocal about things that I enjoy, and obviously it doesn't reflect the views of you guys sometimes, or the school that I work at. It's just the natural way of things. Don't take away that freedom from me.
Ooh, that's exactly what I was coming for. My take on it is I don't really care. They can do what they want. It's Twitter. It's people like... It hasn't changed my life in any way, shape, or form. Yes, I understand how it could be frustrating, maybe if you would expect them to talk about more of their brand. But I look to the Stadia official account for that kind of drops of news and then roadmaps that we've just talked about. But each their own. Do what you want. If it bothers you, unfollow them. Simple as. Move on. Speaking of unfollowing, no, don't really. That brings us to a wrap on our weekly podcast for the Sounds of Stadia, episode 52, our 1 year anniversary. Massive thank you once again from myself and Tom and Richie for sticking with us for what's been a super fast year. I can't believe we've done 1 year's worth of episodes yet.
Wow.
I think 2020 as a whole has been a bit odd as a year.
Yeah, we realise we've done equal episodes now during lockdown as we have done outside of lockdown, which is it's a 50-50 split right now, which just shows you how long this pandemic has been going on for, but more importantly how long we've been going for. What started as a hobby, it's now become part of my routine, and I think I probably live and breathe Stadia on like a daily basis now. I'm checking news feeds, stadiasource.com and everything all day every day, just to keep you guys in the loop out there. So from the bottom of our hearts, massive thank you, and do not forget to check out the Sounds of Stadia celebration next Saturday, 26th of September, kicking off with Monster Boy at 8 a.m. We don't expect to be up for the 8 a.m. one, by the way, but the live podcast does start at 11, and we would love to see you in the chat, showing your support and giving us your questions for next week's episode 53 of the Sounds of Stadia podcast. My name's been Chris.
I've been Tom.
I've been Richie.
We've been Sounds of Stadia. Have a great week, everyone. Take care. Goodbye.
11 a.m.
Bye.
Saturday 26th.